What is up, wrestling fans, and all rise for an all-new edition of the Parts Unknown podcast. I am, of course, the tribal chief of Ringside Intel, Jason Burgos, and with me, as always, is the Big Daddy Cool, the wise man of our fair podcast, and that is the one and only Jose Maldonado. Baby Blue, how are you doing on this latest episode of the show?
Living and breathing, man. Cannot complain. You know, it's been a solid week. Still hot like crazy down here in Florida, but storms have passed and we're still standing. So all in all, it's all in the plus column, as they like to say.
That's always a positive, especially this time of year, hurricane season. But we got a lot of things to talk about. First, wherever you're watching, you're listening to this podcast, whatever platform, please like, share, subscribe, comment. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about Roman Reigns' return since SummerSlam. We're going to get into that at first, but also later on, we're going to talk about rumors of the Lucha Brothers, Penta El Zero Miedo, and his brother Ray Phoenix. They are rumors that they might be going to WWE soon. We're going to talk a little bit about these rumblings and the news. The AEW is planning freaking stadium shows here in the U.S. and abroad soon. Bryan Danielson's final match is coming up. We're going to talk about some comments he made about a possible WWE return. Also, and just the idea of a recent point from Triple H, just big things to come in 2024. We're going to speculate a little bit about that. But first, Roman Reigns, he is finally back. Me, the wife, the son, we were there in person in Cleveland to see it. The first thing I have to say is we could feel the building shake, which is unbelievable. I thought that was going to happen. I expected it, but when it really does happen, even when you know it's possible, it's still quite a situation to be a part of. He's come back. As we all expected, he's feuding with Solo Sikoa. He also made an appearance on the SmackDown following SummerSlam, this year's SummerSlam. First question I have to ask is, how do you think they've handled the return? Have they done it the right way? Because one noticeable thing for a lot of fans, they changed his theme music, which wasn't a big fan of that. He hasn't said anything yet. He's been very quiet in his two appearances. What are your overall thoughts so far on this little bit of what we've gotten for this highly anticipated Roman Reigns return?
Well, the initial pop was magnificent. You know, I mean, as I don't have to tell you, like I said, you were there. I can imagine. I mean, through the TV, it felt as awesome as I hoped it would, and I could even imagine what that must have been like in person.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they've handled it well. You know, the theme song change is noticeable, but not that much. Like, it's still in the same scope of like this epic theme that he's had since he was the tribal chief and everything like that. You know, so I'm not too mad at it. I think they realized that they got to pace this out. You know, there's still a lot of story to tell, and you know he'll say his piece when the time comes, or when Heyman comes back. You know, we should get the inevitable return of the wise man down the road. But whatever the case may be, there's a lot of time to fill. So I'm sure they'll get to it. Right now, I'm feeling super positive about it. I think they've handled it super well. The crowd is loving it. Roman is finally the baby face that WWE always hoped he would be. It just took a hell of a heel run to get him there, which is, you know, what a lot of people were saying for the longest time. And now we're seeing the fruits of that labor. It's just really surreal to actually be at this point now that we've talked about for so long, that, you know, even when he lost the title to Cody, when is Roman coming back? What's that reaction going to look like? Where did they go from there? We're in the thick of it now, and it's super exciting. And I think that's where the fans are with it in general. So I think it's really, really positive. And the best thing about this is that, you know, they have some leeway with how they handle Roman. Not to say that they're going to mishandle him, but I don't think there's a world where they cheer Solo over Roman. So Roman is going to be the babyface to the crowd no matter what. Even if, you know, he's you know, a little off the rails, whatever it may be, which hasn't been the case for a while. Solo's not at that level to where the fans would rather cheer him over Roman. So I think they're in a really good place with him, and I've liked it so far.
I think you nailed it in that, because I would have preferred a little bit a promo thoughts, because that's the thing. What is he thinking? I mean, obviously he's shown it physically, is his satisfaction, but just a little bit more in depth of thoughts on attacking Paul Heyman, all those kinds of things. But yeah, I think you nailed it, because in the end, we have to always factor in with a person like him. He's on this limited date schedule, you know, similar to Brock and stuff like that. So you really don't want to throw everything out there and and give all these details on the story that's going to be strung out for the rest of the year. We covered on Ringside, like the earlier rumors are that him versus Solo in at least a one-on-one match may not even happen to WrestleMania 41, which is still a long way away. So that doesn't mean they won't be in a match together. We all think that this Bloodline Civil War is going to be on War Games in November, but it just shows you how far along this story is. And yeah, they really are saving it. And on that level, it makes sense. And I'm satisfied with it. And it'll be interesting how often he appears on SmackDown because he was away for a few months. So hopefully they have a little bit more bullets to use in terms of his dates on his contract. But that said, we've all talked about it for so many years. Like they've wanted this kind of Roman where he's just a super over baby face that they all felt was possible and how we got here. But it's also about how we maintain it, because there was a point where Roman Reigns was the cool badass in the Shield and everybody loved him. And then that changed. And he's also on the same brand with Cody Rhodes, just the most beloved performer on the roster right now, which I think is going to be a little bit of a problem for them. They might have to split them up at some point. What do you think they have to do to maintain this level of like over the moon popularity for him now as a good guy?
I think they just have to stay the course. They don't really have to change the formula a whole lot. It's not like he was, yes, he was a dastardly heel and cheating to win and things like that. But this story kind of sells itself or writes itself to where it's like there's a division in the bloodline. Here's the side the fans are rooting for. Here's the side that the fans are not rooting for. And to their credit, they've established so well the other side to where we have Solo, we have his henchmen, we have Jacob Fatu, the potential breakout that Roman once was. You know what I mean? Like they took their time between WrestleMania and now setting all of that up. Now they just need Roman to be the destroyer and kind of, go after them, and it'll be interesting to see who joins them in that battle. I think that's what's going to be the fun part in the coming weeks and months is that Roman's going to go at this alone because that's what he does. But eventually the numbers game are going to come into play. And so who's going to be standing by his side? Does Jey Uso reconcile with him? Is Jimmy Uso set to come back? Will he join him? Will Sami Zayn come back into the fold? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of fun things that are kind of up in the air with that. So I really don't think they need to change a whole lot about his approach. It's just he's changed sides. And a lot like, Stone Cold back in the day. Stone Cold was basically a heel who was over with the crowd. He was the anti-hero. That's what they need to do with Roman. Don't need a lot of change. Don't have him saying sucker in, sucker stash or anything like that on mic again. Please leave that in the past. Just present them as somebody who's out for blood and the fans will be along for the ride.
Yeah, I think that the Stone Cold comparison makes the most sense. And that's really what it is. They almost in a way have to make sure that he stays a stark contrast from Cody. And in this case, it should honestly be easy because Cody, and we've talked about it, deserves a lot of credit for being very much a classic good guy in an era where it's preferred to be an anti-hero kind of type. And he succeeded and he hasn't lost any of his momentum and being this kind of John Cena type in a way and stuff like that. So yeah, Roman just has to pretty much be the character he was and just not cheat to win. And I think that'll be more than enough because he has to be that cocky, charismatic, kind of schmucky kind of guy in a way, and it works because this is an age of Conor McGregor's and Sean O'Malley's and Israel Adesanya's and MMA and UFC stuff like that, where that kind of overly cocky stuff works, and these are the heroes for certain people, and so I think that'll work for him, and just honestly similar to The Rock. The Rock, when he was corporate champion, didn't change that much when he became a good guy. He was still the same guy. He was mean to Mick Foley, even though that was a tag team partner. That made that he kept the authenticity and didn't try to change to sell T-shirts, whatever. You're doing all that already. Just keep it going. And I think that's so true. Moving on from there, we're going to get into a little bit of a good amount of AEW related talk right now with some hints of WWE. That there were rumors over the last couple of weeks and we've heard a lot of rumors about it. It almost seems like a little bit of a mini mass exodus of AEW talent that could be leaving. We've already seen Ethan Page, Sean Spears, Lexus King, all former AEW talent that recently went to WWE NXT. Now there's talk about Daniel Garcia may test free agency. Hook may test free agency. Ricky Starks, a lot of talk that he's pretty much WWE-bound and he's just being held to the side. And now Penta and his brother Ray Fenix, the Lucha Brothers, arguably the best tag team in AEW history, the best tag team outside WWE right now, other than the Young Bucks, of course. They seem to be ready to leave. Penta is ready to go. His contract ends very soon in the next few weeks. Ray Phoenix's contract will end soon after. It seems like all the word is that they go to WWE. And there's even some rumblings that they've already talked and already have a contract set up through back channels and stuff like that. And it seems like September, October is probably when they're going to come. You are the wise man of the show. You have the deep, in-depth knowledge of the industry, more so than even I do, especially when it comes to outside WWE. And you follow Penta for a long time. You know Ray Phoenix for a long time. For the people that maybe only watch AEW sparingly, they're more WWE fans, don't know their history. Why is WWE getting the Lucha Brothers such a huge deal? Because they are so good and they're right in their like wrestler primes.
Yeah, anybody who's followed them for years knows how talented they are. Anybody who goes back to like Lucha Underground, just one of the many promotions that they've been in, they were standouts back then, particularly Pentagon. Penta, who was Pentagon back in the day.
Yeah.
Anybody who's watched them in Lucha Underground, TNA, he was even world champ in TNA for just a cup of coffee, but he was world champ. You know what I mean? Like everywhere he goes, he stands out. That's the whole point. Same thing with Ray Phoenix. It's like these dudes are uber talented. They're pushing 40 at this point. So it really, if this is the time for them to make the move, if they, what's happening in AEW, and you touched on it, man, this mini exodus that seems to be going on, it really is an interesting time for AEW because a lot of the novelty is wearing off. They're not cutting edge the way that they used to be. I think back to the first year of AEW and how they used to be, even little moments like, the brawls backstage where, like, the unexpected would happen. Like they kick open the door and there's Orange Cassidy standing there, and it's the funniest freaking thing. But it's like little moments like that were so memorable, and they're so few and far between now. So a lot of these talents are seeing that. They're seeing kind of the ceiling that AEW has to offer, and is not as high as a lot of them would have liked. Somebody like Ethan Page moving over to NXT and making an immediate impact sends such a message to a lot of people who are in a similar situation to AEW that maybe making a switch is the move. You know what I mean? Like somebody like Ricky Starks making the jump would be tremendous. And I think the Lucha Brothers see that too. If it was ever going to happen for them in WWE, now is the time. And, why not gamble on it? The talent is there. The tag team division could use a fresh set of legs. They could be featured, whether it be in NXT or on the main roster, whatever the case may be. I think they're super exciting. And it's a really smart move for them and for a lot of those names that you mentioned. But like, I would love to see Hulk in NXT. I think they do a hell of a lot more for him than what AEW has done. He's kind of stagnated. Like, it's really just kind of spinning his wheels. But if they take somebody like Hook, who's still raw, but still has that innate charisma, and put the right package behind him, I think the sky's the limit for him. And why wouldn't he want to take a shot at that? Not to mention that, Taz has a long history with WWE, both good and bad, but he knows what to expect more or less.
Yeah.
So, it's an opportunity is there for them. And, the Lucha Brothers seizing that opportunity, now's the time for them, for sure.
And we've seen it for fans like us that have been watching WWE for decades now. They found a golden jewel, and honestly, he might have been the golden jewel of the WCW acquisition. That was Rey Mysterio, and he became such a fantastic part of the roster, such a huge merchandise seller, and just a huge addition for them. And they've pretty much been looking to find the next Rey Mysterio for like 20 years now, and they haven't, because that's why Rey Mysterio is still there. They've tried so many different people, brought him in, and they just haven't worked. Honestly, Penta and his brother, to me, they really are the closest thing really in the sport. And what makes them good in that not only are they have a style that really connects with wrestling fans today, but they have a very new age edge. They have that classic lucha vibe and the mask and those things, but that newer edge that makes him different yet similar. Like Panda with his makeup and his color, face paint is fantastic. Ray has a real kind of attitude, and he's a cocky one type too, and it works for them. And if they're ever going to find those guys that can kind of at least fill the void a little bit, these are the two. And like you nailed it, they're at a point where they're right in the middle of the wrestler prime, which for a lot of people, they hear the term wrestler prime. Wrestler prime is a lot different than sports prime. Like in professional sports, a lot of people see like 27, 28 to like 33, 34 is kind of like the athletic prime of sports. But there's a lot of great wrestlers that they really don't hit their very, very best until like 35 to 45, in that kind of weird range. 40, early 40s, like LA Knight, a perfect example. He's in that perfect area where he's a very good athlete still, but his brain is so experienced. So that's why he's on fire right now. He's right dead center wrestler prime. And these guys are at that right now too. And that's why they'd be huge additions. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I mean, last week when the rumor started, WWE, based off rumors and speculation and stuff like that, could soon have the greatest, what a lot of people see as the greatest WWE tag team in the Usos or the New Day. If you want to, either one, they're on the roster still. They have one of the greatest, arguably the greatest New Japan tag team of all time, Guerrillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. They are rumored to have come to a deal with who might be the greatest TNA tag team of all time, Motor City Machine Guns. And now, arguably, you can make a case that the Lucha Brothers are the best tag team in AEW. Yes, young Bucks are more famous, but in terms of just match appeal, what they've achieved in the company, they might be the best AEW tag team of all time. And they could soon all be in WWE mixing it up in the next year, which is unbelievable. And again, Motor City Machine Guns are also kind of wrestler prime. So my God, the possibilities, assuming that, Tangaloa doesn't screw up and do something else dumb like he's been doing a lot lately, which is kind of a weird thing.
You really got to wonder if that's intentional at this point, because my God, the dude is a walking, just, oh my God.
It's a mistake machine.
That dude. Yes, he is.
All right, so moving on from there, continuing on the AEW till again, wherever you're watching or listening to this, please like, share, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to, whatever channel platform you're on. There's been talk about AEW. They are planning to do a stadium event because they have All In coming up in a couple of weeks. It's the second All In London's Wembley Stadium. There was a huge success the first one, despite what was going on backstage at that event. There's talk of they're going to do an event in Texas. You told me earlier before we got on here, Globe Life Field, which is the home of the reigning World Series champion Texas Rangers, has confirmed that they're going to do an event there. And then there's talk about doing an event in Australia. If you've watched this podcast before, you know I'm not a big fan of some of AEW's decisions. And sometimes they're just downright silly. But that's usually on the creative end of things. I think this is now a poor business decision. And that's where you're really starting to have problems for yourself. All In probably not going to, I know they're saying certain things, but I don't think it's going to sell as well as the last one. Because if we've seen throughout AEW's history, they go to a market or territory in wrestling terms, and they sell well. They go back to that place a couple months later, and it doesn't do as well. It's a novelty thing. It's like, oh, it's the first time AEW. I got to see it. Okay, I'm not going to pay the big price tickets to go see it again. And I think that is going to happen at All In. And I think while Australia makes some sense because they'll at least get that one off that'll do well. This Texas thing is a bad idea to me. We just saw New Japan like 2-3 years ago, I think it was when they tried to go to Texas for the Mavericks Arena, and they had major problems selling, and they just didn't do the event. You're going to sell out a baseball stadium in Texas? Like, Jose, please try to make this make sense for me, please.
I wish I could, brother, but I'm there with you. You know what I mean? Like, and you hit the nail right on the head. Now it's AEW starting to see the consequences of their decisions. Tony seems to be just running through resources to diminishing returns. You know what I mean? Like, that last year, All In London was a success. Resoundingly, they filled Wembley Stadium. It was an amazing event, super hot crowd, the works. They're going back this year. Yes, we have to wait and see how that goes, but at least in my opinion, and a lot of people share this opinion, there's no way that it can match what they did last year. Ticket sales haven't been as hot as they were last year. Not to say that it won't pick up towards the end, but that makes all the sense in the world for them to kind of bail on London because it seems like they've tapped that out. So what's next? What you said about Australia makes a lot of sense because, if you're going to feed a starving market, you're going to get better results.
Yeah.
Texas is not a starving market.
No.
Like here in the States, AEW has traveled around and we've seen their attendance just dwindle and dwindle as the events have gone on.
Canada's already dried up for them. Canada was a thing, and that's already dried up. Canada loves wrestling.
Canada, a notorious hotbed for professional wrestling, has dried up for them. The Grand Slam events in New York were so great right off the bat, and they have died down because they priced a lot of people out. And I think that's a big concern for them too. I'm not sure what their price point is in terms of profit from live events, but a lot of the tickets are not feasible, and just people are not turning up to them. They'd rather just wait for WWE or not go at all. This Texas show, we're talking about Globe Life Field is a massive baseball stadium for anybody who has not seen it. You know, retractable roof, the works. We're talking 50, 60,000 for a wrestling setup. I'm not sure how they're going to fill that. You know what I mean? The demand is not really there for AEW. WWE is as hot as it has ever been. And they did what, about 50,000, 60,000 at Cleveland Stadium?
Yeah,
How does
it wasn't sold out. Like the top half on the left side was all tarped off, and that's WWE for SummerSlam.
That's WWE at SummerSlam. They're number 2, arguably. You know, Royal Rumble was up there, but they're their second biggest event of the year, and they had portions of it tarped off. What does AEW expect from Globe Life Field? Like, we're gonna have to wait and see on that one, because this could be a disaster of epic proportions that they may not be able to come back from. Like, the embarrassment of booking this stadium and not being able to fill it to capacity or even partial to capacity is going to make them the laughing stocks of the industry, and it's a huge risk. And I'm sure Tony has a lot of faith in this product, but a lot of fans don't share that same faith.
And the thing that annoys me, and I feel, I don't know, offended is probably too strong a word, but just perturbed and annoyed. And like, he kind of, like, Tony and AEW are very much in full on now. Before, they were legit and doing some really nice things and interesting things. And now they're in full on fake it till you make it mode with some of these decisions. Oh, we're going to have these big announcements and we're going to game changer. Oh, yeah, we have a sponsorship with Ring Light. You know, like, it's just these nonsense things. And this is like, it's weird. It's like for a company that tried to be very much a big, separation of style and hugely different from WWE and what they did, and treating the fans like they're like the smart fans that they are. Now they're just treating fans, they're trying to do the stupid, like you're dumb, like you don't know, like WWE once did. And it's completely flipped. Like, lean into that, the fact you have these smart fans. Like, come on. Like, no one is out there saying, oh, everything's great other than you. Like, Tony, it's like, so doing these things, it's just like, oh, we're going to have this big stadium event. Like, why would you do that when we have pictures online of half-filled small arenas? Like, what? Like, just treating fans like they're idiots. Like, if he did, like, okay, if you did the shows in Texas recently or wherever, that they just stayed in one arena for a few events, just say it. Like, look, we're going to go to cost cutting measure, and we want to do this, and we want to do something special and unique, and you know, it's just like, just acting like reality is not reality. So frustrating. I don't want to root against them because they're so important for the industry, but it's weird. It's like they're in a bizarre world, and like the product is not getting better, and they still continue to do weird things, and it's not like, it's shocking the difference in this product in 2024 to like 2019. Or like 2021, like after we got out of the pandemic, they had Daniel Bryan, they had CM Punk coming in, like shocking how different and how less entertaining it is. But speaking of,
and in such a quick amount of time,
just years, just a few years, it's completely flipped. And now you have all these people wanting to leave, like we talked about. Nobody wants to leave. Everybody wants to go there. Now they're the place that nobody wants to stay, unfortunately. Right. Speaking of Daniel Bryan, his like probably the end to his full-time run is coming up. He's going to have this match with Swerve Strickland at All In, and the classic career versus title thing. He made some interesting comments recently on a recent podcast. He's doing the media rounds heading into the event, and he was asked 2 questions about, one, a WWE return, and then being in the Hall of Fame. And his response was really surprising to me. One, he only said he would be interested in coming back to WWE. And this is a guy, again, remember, this is a guy who left WWE and didn't have anything bad to say. Like, he had a lot of positive things to say about it. He didn't leave on bad terms. He's always consistently says he enjoyed his time at WWE. But he said he would only return if like things changed and like the WWE product was really in a downward spiral, and like AEW had become the top company. So he would go to bring the balance again, like he did for AEW, and try to help WWE if that's were to happen. At this point, that's definitely not going to happen. And then also on the WWE Hall of Fame, he just has no real interest in like those kind of the outside the ring accolades and stuff like that, which is I get on a level, but I mean, I feel like he's sort of, because he's fully immersed in the Tony Khan Kool-Aid, he's kind of lost sight of the fans. And I think Tony Khan has kind of also lost sight of the larger segment of fans. He's feeding the need of the diehards that want a 30-minute, 5-star fest or whatever. And that's why the business is not as doing as good for them. And I think Daniel Bryan's kind of forgot, like, Hall of Fame in wrestling is as much for you, but it's less so like it is in baseball, football. This is kind of for the fans. Like the fans made you who you are because of your performance, and it's a celebration of your connection with the fans, really. So and going back to WWE again, it's kind of losing sight of this great connection you have with this fan base in these special moments, and it's really going back to show love to the fans, and then they're going to show love back to you, and it's unfortunate that he's kind of has his disconnect. What are your thoughts on him? His comments on not being too much interested in going back to WWE or the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, regarding the Hall of Fame thing, like I understand why he would say something like that. It's kind of in vogue to not be as interested in those kind of accolades, but I don't put a whole lot of weight into that. I think the time will come where they'll ask him and he'll go in. There's no way it doesn't happen. It's not like to your point. It's not like he left on bad terms or anything like that. And there'll come a time down the line where he'll want to reflect on everything that happened, and the WWE Hall of Fame is the perfect place to do that. So, the same way that we've seen, never say nevers like, Ultimate Warrior going in, San Martino going in, things like that. I find it really hard to believe that the time will come and Bryan Danielson will not want to go in. It'll happen one way or another. So I'm not too worried about that. But in terms of what he said about the other thing, yeah, if he's going to hold himself true to that, we're never going to see him back in WWE because there's no scenario where AEW is going to take over WWE anytime in the near future. So, yeah, I think it's just a point of it's a matter of him being loyal to the person that is being loyal to him right now, and that's Tony Khan. He takes his role seriously as kind of his mentor and ambassador for AEW. He understands that he's a big draw. He wants to do the best that he can to make AEW feel like a big deal, and he's in the main event upcoming of their biggest show against their world champions. So, he's saying all the right things for the company that he's currently employed with. What that looks like down the line, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it may be different. But at this point in time, I'm not really surprised by the things that he's saying. He's saying all the right things for his current employer, but, I don't think it changes a whole lot about everybody's perspective on things. AEW is clearly a number 2 to WWE, even more so than it was before. And, as much as he brings to it, it's not going to change a whole lot. So, we'll see how he feels about it when the contract comes up or anything like that. Or maybe he's enjoying his time there and he'll want to go behind the scenes and he'll be able to have a much more involved role in AEW than he would in WWE. So, it could be a short amount of time. It could be 15, 20 years from now. But I think the time will come where he'll get into the Hall of Fame one way or another.
Yeah, not all fair points. I agree. And so moving on from there, our final topic for this episode. And again, please like, share, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button on our pages. Triple H made a really interesting comment after SummerSlam and the post-event press conference, which I love. I love these post-event press conferences they do. Yeah. They have talent, it's kind of the talent or sort of a mix of kayfabe and being real and stuff like that, and then also just getting people picking Triple H's mind and getting an inside look at what he's thinking is always interesting too. But he said, and this is a quote, "This year is going to close out big. I'm excited for all of it. The future is bright. This is the most amazing roster I think I've seen, most talented, most dedicated. Everybody's having a blast right now, including me, which is the best part of it. And we're all just charging ahead. So if what I believe to be coming is true, you ain't seen nothing yet." And that's something that's pretty bold because 2024 has been great. We just saw WrestleMania 40, which is, the greatest, probably, at least the best WrestleMania main event of my lifetime, the most entertaining. And it's just a great, fantastic card. And I covered this over Ringside. Threw out some ideas of what this could be. One of them being maybe Brock Lesnar finally makes his return, a match with Gunther. That'd be a great way to really push Gunther over to another level. Bloodline Civil War. What do you feel? Do you think could be these things that he sees in the pipeline that are even maybe bigger than this big first half that maybe we're not? Like, put on your full-on speculation hat, and what do you think some of these could be?
It'll be interesting to see if they have any surprises that we're not thinking of. Because, man, to your point, it's been a huge year for WWE. But yeah, I think you mentioned a big name, and that's Brock. Brock. We're not sure where he stands in this whole situation that happened with Vince McMahon and allegations that apparently he was tangentially a part of. So how they handle that and how they navigate that, to what degree, that's something I have to look to look at. But Brock against Gunther, my God, that would be a dream match scenario if that were to come down the pike. I think another big name that's going to play into a whole lot, a big part of that, and it's not necessarily a surprise, but still we have yet to see what it's going to look like, is John Cena. Cena has announced his retirement tour, you know what I mean? So, this is the final year for him. And, we since the announcement, we haven't seen any matches or anything like that. So I think that's going to start taking shape. Will it be, the one last time against Randy Orton or against like CM Punk? Does he face somebody like Gunther? Does he get involved in the Bloodline storyline? What that looks like. That could add to the excitement too, because Cena is, the biggest name WWE has had for a long time, and him wrapping it up has to be one of the big things that WWE presents going forward. So for the second half, I expect that to be a big deal. In terms of surprises, I'm kind of racking my brain, but a big piece of that's looking tremendous is NXT. A lot of the women's signings that they did, it may not be to the degree of a Brock Lesnar or things like that, but like Stephanie Vauquer and Julia coming in, fans are clamoring to see what that looks like. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of excitement down about, Ethan Page is the current world champ, but is Trick Williams going to get it back? Like that kind of thing. NXT has been cooking with gas. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing that could play into it. He may just be talking about everything in general. And, lost in the weeds of all this is the fact that Cody is the champ. And Cody is still, super over with the fans. You know what I mean? So it's like, to see what that'll look like going forward. LA Knight finally has a United States Championship, who are going to be some of his challengers. A lot of things that the fans have wanted to see for the longest time are currently happening. We're in the thick of it, just like with Roman's return. So it's like when he's painting that kind of a broad brush, I think that's a lot of what he's talking about. They have a lot of exciting plans kind of maybe mapped out from here to the end of the year or even until WrestleMania. So we're going to start seeing a lot of that take shape. What that looks like as fans, this is a great time to be a fan, because for the longest time we labored about how being a WWE fan is like them, succeeding despite themselves. But now they're just, really, really rolling along, and we're going along for the ride.
It's a tough one because I mentioned in the article, there aren't necessarily those, outside of what we kind of mentioned, some other free agent that might be on the way, like New Japan. Usually their free agents are at the end of the year, December into January. So he doesn't mean that's not going to happen this year. Maybe like I mentioned in the article, Lucha Brothers, maybe he knows. He knows they are coming, and that's a big one. He knows how valuable they are. Maybe he knows like Ricky Starks is ready to come over once the contract. And those are real big additions and stuff like that. I feel like it could be some more crossover stuff. Terrence Crawford made a few appearances for WWE recently on stuff. Yeah. He has mentioned he'd be open to kind of doing more, maybe a match and stuff like that. We've seen that's how the product is so hot. Lil Wayne, Jelly Roll, all the Terrence Crawford, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton showing up on shows like it's
make that happen.
Yeah, maybe that's one of them. That's a match, Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton. But I don't know. The season's going to start soon. They'd have to set that up soon. But maybe Jake Paul. Logan's brothers here. Logan's here. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson November. Maybe they know. Okay, once that fight is done, December, Jake and Logan are going to tag match or something like that. That's another one. I also thought about maybe the idea of maybe they're going to introduce some matches we haven't seen in a while. Maybe like a First Blood with Finn Balor and Damian Priest and their feud and stuff like that. You bring that blood element into it. There's a Netflix thing and everything that's coming up. Maybe that changes how the content is. And the last one I wanted to mention, I think, going to what your point of NXT. NXT, one of the best things about NXT right now is this unique relationship with TNA. It seems like for the last the last 6 months to a year, there's really been these little things that have been done for a while that WWE's really trying to get a footprint in Japan. They sent Shinsuke over there to face Great Muta in his last match, where I think that was for Noah. They've had some talent over there wrestling for All Japan. They're working with the guy who used to work with Stardom. Now that he's created his own promotion, I feel like that's on the way too. Like maybe we're going to see All Japan talent start showing up in NXT or something like that, or even the main roster. I think like a bigger influence into Japan might be another big part of what's going on. They've always seen value there, but either way, as a fan, I'm excited to see what's to come, and it's already been a fantastic year as a wrestling fan, especially for WWE fans. It's up to be even more so. But that is it our topics for this edition of the Parts Unknown podcast. As always, please, I know I'm sure I'm beating you over the head with this, but please like, share, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it for more content like this, and please comment what you think of all these various topics. As always, I am Jason Burgos. He is Jose Maldonado. Until next time, bye-bye.